Hello everyone, the next topic in module 1 is about process concepts. So we all know process is an active entity. Whenever a program is under execution, we call that execution part of a program as a process. So processing of an program is done in two ways, or execution of a program is done in two ways. One is batch system, where each and every process is divided into jobs and each job is allocated for execution. So once a job is under execution, other jobs has to wait. Second method is time sharing method. Whenever user program starts execution, CPU time is divided into time slots and executed. Each and every slot is allocated for each process for parallel execution. Next one is process in memory. Here, whenever a program is whenever a program is to be executed, then the program is copied to the main memory for execution in this manner, where the process is divided into text part, data, heap and stack. Text part will contain the actual code of program which is to be executed. Data part will contain global variables. Heap and stack will be dynamic data entities, and in between heap and stack free spaces left out, and stack and heap grows while the code is executed or when the process is under execution. So the stack contains all the functions, return address, local variables, and heap contains runtime data of that process. Next one is process states. So every process which has created has to go through 5 states of a processing. Whenever a process is created, the process which is created will be at present in new state. Once it is created, it will be sent to ready state or admitted to ready state. This ready state will have all the processes which is created and ready for execution. Once a once a process gets CPU time, then it is moved to running. When a process is under CPU, we call it as running state. Whenever I interrupt from the other process, or whenever the time slots finishes for that process, because of that interrupt, the process under running will come back to ready state. Or if a process needs to wait for input output, then it generates a wait function and goes to waiting state until that input output event is completed. Once the input output event is completed, it will go back to ready state, waits for CPU for execution. So once CPU is allotted to the ready state and it goes to running state, if at all it completes its execution, then it calls exit function and goes to terminate state. A process which has successfully completed execution will go to terminate state. Next one is process control block. So information about all the process is stored, like every process will have a process control block, and each and every information about that process is stored in this control block. So it is divided into many segments. First one is process state, which defines in this 5 state under which state your process is in. Next one is process number. Every process will have its own identification number. That number is stored under process number. Next one is process counter, which gives the location of next instruction to be executed. Next one is program counter. Program counter will give next location the address of the next instruction to be executed. Register will have all the process centric information which is needed by CPU. Memory limits will give the memory management information. List of files will have the files which is needed by this process to execute, and so on. Next one is CPU switching from one process to another process. How a CPU switches from one process to another process. So if at all a process P0 was executing and a interrupt is generated for some interrupt, like let it be input output interrupt or some interrupt, then process P0 with the help of that interrupt will go to the ideal state until that interrupt finishes its execution. So interrupt or system call happened from process 2. What happens to process 1? save the states into PCB0. Process counter block, program count, like this process counter block of P0 will be saved. Reload the PCB of 1. So process 1's PCB will be loaded. Once PCB 1 of P1 is loaded, it starts execution until interrupt or system call is generated by some other process for execution. If at all a system call is generated or interrupt is generated from P1, it saves the state of PCB1, that reloads the state of PCB0. After the reloading of PCB0, P0 process will start execution and P1 will go back to ideal state. This is how CPU switches from one process to another process. Next method is threading. So far we have seen process, but threading is the smallest execution part of a process as a single thread of execution. And if you have multiple threads, program counter per process will have multiple locations of execution. Like each process will have multiple locations of execution. We call it as threads, and each multiple, like all these threads data will be stored again in program counter block. Next one is process scheduling. Process scheduling is done with the help of scheduling queues. Like one method of process scheduling is scheduling queues. Process scheduler is selecting a process from the ready queue to the execution. We have to allocate the process for execution, that is process scheduling. First method is scheduling queue. So in the scheduling queue, we'll be having queue of process ready in the ready queue, and it will be having a head and tail. Head information will have the first process in the ready queue, and tail information will have the last process under this queue. And for every type of storage unit, there will be scheduling queue for the processing. So job queue, set of all the process in the system. Ready queue will have set of process residing in the main memory. Device queue will have the process which is waiting in input output device, and so on. Next, we'll see how process will happen, like request for processing will happen in ready queue. So ready queue will have all the scheduling, like process queues in the ready state, and one process will be given with CPU. Once our CPU is executing, it can have many types of interrupts generated to that process. First one is input output request. Once input output request is done for a process under execution, it will come to input output request. Then input output queue, from the input output queue the process will be selected, input output operation is executed, and it will go back to ready queue for next operation. If it is time slice expired, so if it is time sharing based CPU, if time slice expired, it will come to time slice expired and go back to ready queue. If it is from the fork, a child process is created, then the parent process will wait until child is executed, and then it will go back to ready queue. Next one is based on wait for interrupt. Whenever an interrupt is generated from other process, then it will come to wait for interrupt, and interrupt occurs and go back to ready queue. Next one is scheduler. So here for the ready queue we have two types of schedulers. One is short-term scheduler, long-term scheduler. Short-term scheduler is based on CPU's time, and long-term scheduler is based on CPU, like job scheduler. In short time, what happens? CPU's scheduling, like CPU's execution is divided into shorter term intervals, and it start execution based on the time slot. Short-term scheduling happens like based on the time. If it is 1 millisecond for each process, every 1 millisecond another process will be given time for execution, and this process under execution will go back to ready queue and starts waiting. In long-term scheduling, it's based on job scheduling. Instead of milliseconds, here seconds and minutes matter. Once a job is scheduled, it has to wait, and like other jobs has to wait until this job finishes its execution. So if it is like, we have two types of scheduling, like short term and long term. Based on that, we can divide that as input output process and CPU bound process. In input output bound, like it spends more time during input output completion than CPU bus. So if it is job type, job scheduling, if a job is scheduled, the process will be waiting until the job is completed based on input output bound also. So CPU burst cycle will be wasted in input output completion. In CPU bound process, it is like CPU schedule or short term, where computation will happen without waiting for like other interrupts like CPU or other interrupts like input output interrupts. So it is mostly spends time in CPU burst. Next one is medium term scheduler. Disadvantage of job scheduling is CPU will be waiting for a longer time under input output. In short term scheduling, like more time is wasted from taking a process, like shifting from one process to another process. So medium term scheduler is introduced. So in the medium term scheduler, multiple program needs to execute based on a degree of time added. So it counts the degree of completion of execution, then it will start its scheduling, like it will start the context switching between process. In the ready queue, one process is allocated for CPU. It has two types of scheduling. One is based on input output, second is based on context switching or time based short term. So if a process is running and if a process gets input output request, then it will come to input output queue. Other CPU like swipe out that process, swipe in the another process which has to be executed next, since the process which was executing will be under wait. So by while shifting a process without time but on the input output, this increases degree of CPU but also decreases the time of context switching. Instead, the process will be executed. Next one is context switching. So we have seen how ready queue maintains the queue of process to be executed, how long term and short term scheduler will schedule the process, means switch from one process to another process based on job and based on time. But once you have to switch from one process to another process, you have to save the data where the process was executing. Like you have to save all the recent data of the process state and then shift to next process. The exchange of process from execution, we call it as context switching. So in the context switching, what we have to do, first thing, before switching a process from before switching a process from CPU to main memory, or before switching process 1 to process 2, we have to save the state of a old process, like save the state of old process, then load the saved state of next process and execute it. So saving the state of one process and then going back to the loading the next process to the execution, we call this method of shifting from one process to another process for execution, we call it as context switching. So before context switching, we have to save the state of presently running process, then load the next process saved state for switching. So context of the process is represented in PCB. Process control block will be the place where the data of the process is saved and loaded. With the help of context switching, we can save the data of presently, we can save the state of the process which has executed, and we can use it for next cycle of execution. So I hope you understood the concept of process. Thank you.